call, Joel. I want to call you community driven and well informed. And anything he sends me, I always read and scour because I respect his intelligence and you always do research that I just really appreciate. And we have the same political leanings and the stuff he sends me practical things how to reach Congress people and uh, many things. But earlier this, right after the first of the year, I got this wonderful presentation. Wasn't really a presentation, but um, a guidebook for climate change and what an individual or we as groups can do about the climate change. It's so overwhelming. And as we just went through here in LA with the fires and the rains, and we know it's all caused by that. And that's what I asked Joel to share all this great information he'd compiled to share it with our group. So, Joel, if you unmute yourself, just start right out.
Okay, good morning again. Thank you, Mel. So nice to see you and see you, Sheila. Um, uh, I thought what I would do is spend maybe 10 minutes or so kind of setting the stage for this. Say a little bit about myself and kind of how how it came to pass that I ended up on your call this morning, because I think it speaks to the what I mentioned at the very beginning, by way of introduction, is that this is something that is much, it's about kind of all of us together, without sounding corny about that, but that that really is the truth, that it's about what each of us does, and then how we find a way to do this collectively, and certainly as pertains to climate, but with everything that's out there that we're facing, and both on the difficult side, but also on the good side, is how to rally behind the things that are good and positive. And so anyway, I think a little bit of context, may inform that bigger picture, and then I'll get into the particulars of the climate piece. But again, I really appreciate having this opportunity. As for myself, the three of us grew up in the Midwest, and just friendship is really a hallmark from where we grew up, and so to still have the friendship after all these years, with the two of you is, it's a privilege for sure. Professionally, I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm a retired clinical psychologist. I did my doctoral training at Georgia State University, and then came from Atlanta to Palo Alto, California, to do my internship at the Department of Veterans Affairs at the VA hospital in Palo Alto. And that turned into a 31-year career with the Department of Veterans Affairs, which I can only say I went into a career as a psychologist with exceedingly high expectations, and the career I had working with veterans so far exceeded anything I could imagine for myself, that really very fortunate about that. And I had the good fortune of the last 7 years of that career, working as part of a national team out of central office in DC, helping to develop what is a very vital program in the VA now called the Veterans Justice Programs, which is the program that is oriented towards serving any veterans who are in any way connected to the justice system. So that was the way I was able to conclude my career, and I still stay connected to that work a little bit. Uh, Professionally, I also have, in learning about your group and all of you, I think that there seems to be some appreciation for Jungian psychology, so that's another piece that I'm connected to in the world of psychology. Have my own connection to it. That my doctoral dissertation was in the area of Jungian psychology, but I'm also married to Johanna Meyer, who is a certified Jungian analyst. She trained at the San Francisco Jung Institute, so by virtue of my own work in Jungian psychology, but also being married to a Jungian analyst, that's very much at the core of how I think about things, and I think informs much of the sorts of things that I do these days. I retired in 2017, and having had the career that I'd had, and really the life that I'd had, I felt very determined to find a way to, in the way I think about it, to somehow try to stay relevant and to still try to make a difference. Felt like I had the opportunity to make a difference with veterans through my career, and I wanted to still find a way to do that. And so when I retired, it was about 6 months into the first Trump administration, and the fact that Donald Trump had become my boss did not in any way uh, was not part of my timing of retirement. That was the trajectory I was on anyway. But I must say I was not disappointed to be leaving at that point, as I was concerned about where things would go. Unfortunately, during the first administration, things really remained pretty unchanged with the VA. I'm concerned about where they may go in the future. But in terms of trying to maintain some sense of relevance, what I started to do was something that I didn't feel like I ever really could do while I was a federal employee, and that was to do much in the way of political advocacy. I took the ethics code of being a federal employee very seriously. We could not accept a gift, I think, of more than a value of something like $15 or something like that. And so to see the shift from what is really intended in terms of ethics to the kinds of things that we may see these days is really alarming. But I took it seriously, and that included that I I did not really speak out a lot publicly because, I did not want that to be confused with speaking on behalf of the VA or the federal government. And so I didn't. But once I retired, I began to get involved in a bit of what Melanie referred to, which was, to pay attention to issues that had always been important to me, look for ways to try to have some influence on those. And as long as I was doing that, I thought, well, hold it out to other people, and anybody that might be interested, might do so as well. And I also knew that oftentimes people want to do something but feel kind of lost about how to go about doing it. And so to give people actually a little bit of a blueprint, if you want to try to advocate about this particular issue, here's who you call and how you reach them, that kind of thing. It seemed like that might make it more likely that people would do something that they were inclined to do. So I did that, and I did that throughout the first Trump administration. And then at the time that Joe Biden got elected in 2020, I decided to forego that. I still did a little bit, and continued to do a little bit of that, but I decided that for two reasons that I was going to shift where my focus was. One was because we now had an administration in that was really that I was very much aligned with the agenda, and so there was kind of less need to kind of press or fight against certain things. But the other thing was seeing the extreme dysfunction of Congress, of the House and Senate, with this, split majorities between the two chambers. And it just seemed like, we were deadlocked. And so the advocacy that I'd been doing around legislative work and so forth, uh, it just seemed like it wasn't going to be as fruitful. And so I thought about what to do next, and I what I landed on was that another thing that speaks volumes is dollars and money, and so I set about looking into the whole uh, notion of how to do personal charitable giving in a way that really has the potential to have the most profound effect in the ways that one might hope will be the case. And so that was a project that I did, and I in doing that, I was doing that for our purpose here, for Johanna's and my purpose to be able to look at the best ways to donate our funds. But I realized early on that once again, I might as well do it in a way that maybe could benefit other people. And so as I put it together and wrote it up, I made a point of trying to do it in a way that I thought, could be helpful to other people. And I sent that around to the same group that I was doing the political advocacy with, which is a group of maybe about 60 or 70 people, I guess, something like that. And then it was time to think about, okay, well, what was I going to do next? And that was a couple of years into the Biden administration. So, about 3 years ago. And, we were facing so many things domestically and internationally that were so daunting. I wasn't sure kind of what direction I wanted to go with that. And I happened to hear an interview by climate scientist Katharine Hayhoe. And I don't know how many people are familiar with. She's a very prominent climate scientist. She's at the university at Texas Tech University in Lubbock, and she's you know she's a fireball, a spitfire, and she's very, very good. And I heard this interview, and it really grabbed me. And her, in addition to being as knowledgeable as she is about issues related to climate, she's also very oriented towards the central tenet that what is most key is our dialogue about it. And obviously, dialogue about climate and climate change and need for mitigation is volatile. It's one of those things that can push families apart, and friends apart, and that kind of thing. And a lot of her materials are oriented towards how to talk with people about it in a way that you can look for common ground and not get caught up in whether you believe this or whether you believe that, but what's in our mutual well-being. And certainly one very key way to think about that, and that she really emphasizes, is that we've got to do this for our kids and our grandkids and our friends' kids and our nieces and nephews. And so you'll see when I present the materials that that's very much a hallmark of what she has written about and talks about. So I went and got her book, one of her books, and I listened to some other talks that she had done, and really have become a fan of Katharine Hayhoe, and so would encourage folks to find your way to her, to see if there's things that resonate there with you. And you'll see in my materials there's a lot of make it easy for you to find her. Um, um, so I did that, and I concluded that in December and sent it around. That's what Mel was referring to, and uh, I got an email back from Melanie pretty quickly, saying and saying that she was planning to send it around to all of you, and I was so touched by that because what you know, that was in addition to compiling information that's useful for Johanna and I. What was so important to me was that, maybe this could get out in a way that other people, it may make a difference for other people. And so this was really kind of the epitome of it, of somebody seeing it and saying, I'm gonna send it out to this other group. And then of course the idea is that to whatever extent, any of you think there may be value in it for you, that it might prompt you in ways that would be beneficial for you and your loved ones, but maybe you will pass it along as well. And that's the way these things kind of work. So the last thing I'll say about that is that as I was concluding that, obviously the election occurred, and things went away in a direction that I was not expecting. I think a lot of people were not expecting. And and with being nearing completion of the climate project, I began to think about, is there something next to do? And with what I imagined we were facing with a new administration coming in and a returned administration, it has pushed me back towards the political advocacy piece. So I'm currently working on a similar kind of thing around effective political advocacy. That I've got a little ways to go, but at some point I think that will be something that would could be available to folks. That I'll just say I'm not much one to just sit around and complain about things. I do my share of complaining, but I really think that what the way to make a difference is to be solution oriented. And so with this document, even though it's that I'm working on now, even though it's grim to be dealing with, it's really oriented towards identifying what issues one might want to try to impact, and then how to go about doing it in a way that actually may be effective, and including getting on board with things that are happening by folks that we might not embrace, but they actually may be doing some things that would be beneficial, and those we want to help to support. But meanwhile, we've got our share of things that aren't so helpful, that need attention in a different direction. So with that, I'm going to do a screen share and put the document. I believe you all received it. That not to equate that with having read it. But anyway, I'm going to put this up on the screen, and then basically I'm going to walk through it, and I'm going to try to do that pretty quickly, so I can be sure to leave some time at the end for some dialogue, since that's really the essence of this, is talking about this. So let me give this a shot here. So is it showing on the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So this is the document that I sent around to Mel that you should have gotten, and I'll just say right off the top, as I was getting ready to do this, I realized that in the table of contents, there's supposed to be an entry in there below between climate-related promise and what you can do, um, which which is about attitude influence, and I see that that got left out. But anyway, that's minor.
Joel, just excuse me just a second. Is there any
Yes.
way that you can enlarge the view or expand that, so that it becomes a little larger for everybody to see?
Maybe. How bad is it? Is it not readable?
But maybe not everybody can. That's all.
Yeah. I let me see if I can do it without okay, that should looks better, right?
That helps.
Okay. Is that enough or do you want me to go more?
I mean, it's okay for me, but maybe other people, if you could do it more, I guess that helps. That's good.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
shut up.
Is that okay? All right. So, anyway, I'm going to just talk you through this a little bit with the idea of, if this is of any interest, ways to kind of be able to take advantage of it. So, it starts with just a summary of each of the sections that match up with the slightly incorrect table of contents. And so each of the sections that are listed, there's just a brief mention of what's in there. And I just want to highlight this for a moment. I made a point of saying this in the document, and it's simply because if you're paying attention to climate, got to be realistic that each and every one of us could potentially be on the really horrible side of some sort of climate event, and so you've got to have an evacuation plan and really a detailed one, and be able to get out of your home quickly, or wherever you're at. And also make sure that in that evacuation plan, you've got a meetup plan in case you're not together, and how you're going to meet up if you're in different places. So anyway, I just wanted to make a point of saying that. Anyway, this is just a review of a summary of each of the sections, and then we get into the kind of the meat of things. So, as I was saying, I'm oriented towards, the positive aspects of what we can do and how we can make a difference, and as overwhelming as things can be, not letting them paralyze us from into inactivity. And Catherine Hayhoe, I think my gravitation towards her is that that's so much of what she talks about. So I guess the one thing I would suggest is that would be worth 42 minutes or an hour if you listen to the question and answer piece afterwards, is this presentation that Catherine Hayhoe did in last year at the University of Michigan. And I couldn't get the link. I couldn't be able to provide the link directly, but you just go onto YouTube and put in the title, this title right here, and you'll get it. And so again, she talks for 42 minutes, and then she does a nice question and answer with one other person afterwards. And if you want to just get a nice glimpse of her and what this is all about, that would be an hour-long way to do that.
I just emailed it again.
Great, thank you. So then I wanted to start with things that are encouraging, and they're endless. But as I was doing this over the period of about 3 years, I paid attention to all kinds of articles, and certain ones caught my eye. And so I wanted to start with those and list those out first. And I was just going to show you a couple. So I'm gonna do the link and see if this works. Should work to. So each of those solutions has the article that it was drawn from, and this first one was about what they did in Phoenix because of the extreme heat and what they have done to try to address that, especially keeping in mind the folks who are homeless and at such so potentially vulnerable to this. And so that's what this article is about. And the keys to what they did in Phoenix is that it was the first publicly funded municipal office in the United States that was dedicated to combating heat and heat related deaths. And they did a heat relief network of cooling centers and hydration stations. They actually utilized technology that cools the pavement and did sunlight reflecting roofing. They created shade structures and water features in their public parks, and they more than doubled the city tree cover. And so those are just examples, and the Phoenix thing is one example. I did see something more recently where I think that the number of heat-related deaths in Phoenix might be the highest anywhere in the country. And so I don't necessarily think that this was not successful. I think that they have a challenge that is far beyond what most other cities. But even if their system wasn't particularly effective, I think the concept is really it speaks to a city that was really looking out for the vulnerable. And again, as we think about what's happening these days, that is such a crucial piece, is to pay attention to um, the folks that need it the most. Um, let's see that. Oh, that didn't go well. So, I just lost my document. Give me a second here. Sorry about that. And I think with that, I will forego going to other links so I don't run into that problem. Okay, so and then the other one I just wanted to mention is this one from Dickinson College, because again, I really believe that young people are the key to this. If young people don't gravitate towards addressing this issue and other issues that we're facing, I think we're in trouble. And so one of the things I really wanted to do with this project was encourage those of you who receive it in your consideration of passing it along to think about passing it along to young people. And this format is not a format that young people really resonate with. They don't resonate with email for that matter. So you're probably going to have to just talk with them about it and try to find a way to get their ear and then see if you can lead them in directions that so they become more interested. But Dickinson College, they're doing incredible things where they, as you can see from here, they were recognized as the most sustainable small liberal arts college for 6 consecutive years, and they're doing just a whole array of things on the campus that are really terrific. And this was one of the things that Katharine Hayhoe highlighted in one of her regular newsletters that she sends out. The next section of the compilation is this one on attitude influence. And much to my own surprise, as a Jewish kid that grew up in the Midwest, the first thing that I'm including here is a mention of a book by Pope Francis, which, the timing is obviously really significant considering what's happening with the Pope. But he wrote this book, and it's a really beautiful way of thinking about the environment and climate. And so it might be worth getting and taking a look at. But then really move into the work of Katharine Hayhoe. this is the book that I mentioned that I got after I saw her interviewed. And you can see from the title, Saving Us, A Scientist's Case for Hope and Healing in an Undivided World. That's what she is about, and so much of what she talks about. But I also want to highlight this book because this is the book that Katharine Hayhoe says anyone getting started out in this ought to take a look at. So this is her recommendation, like my recommendation about reading her. This is her recommendation about what you ought to read. It's this book by Robert Henson from 2019, The Thinking Person's Guide to Climate Change. As far as Katharine, if you want even a shorter than the 42-minute version, she did a TED Talk in 2018, and there's the link for that. And so all of these links are active. So anything that shows up in blue like that is an active link. You just have to click on it and you will get it. So that's to the TED Talk. Here's that same 42-minute presentation that I mentioned. And then I really want to highlight this as well, is with this in the spirit of getting to our younger generations. She did this 6-minute and 58-second piece that is part of a series that she does called Global Weirding. And it's, again, her titles really capture what she's about. This one is, I'm only a kid, I can't do anything about climate change, right? And obviously in this 7-minute piece, she counteracts that notion and that attitude. And then you'll see here are some organizations that are designed for young people relative to climate change. So this might be something that if you can get young people interested, maybe they will gravitate towards one of these organizations as a way that they would maintain their ongoing involvement. Here's some other considerations for things with young people. Some stuff from NPR. I assume most people in this group are probably NPR fans. So if you're an NPR fan, there's a couple of links to NPR kinds of things. The next section is what you can do at the individual and daily life level. So this is, very, again, intended to be very pragmatic, almost too obvious, but it's good to be reminded. So this lengthy list is just a list of a lot of the things that one can do that can really make a little bit of a difference. And again, you'll see here's another piece. If you're thinking, well, what I can do as an individual is such a drop in the bucket, it really doesn't matter. Here on YouTube, here's a piece that says, yeah, it does matter. And anyway, a lot of different things that one can do that make a difference. And then this one, again, I don't want to open up the link and I have to mess around with going back and finding the document. But this came out of the UK down here, and it's from Climate Stewards, and it's actually a calculator. If you go to this link, you can go in and you can put in, kind of what you're doing at home, your air travel, your auto travel, that kind of thing, and you can basically calculate your carbon footprint. So it's kind of a fun little piece. The next section of the document is about local community, and I think this is probably the biggest thing to say about that, is that there's and this goes back to giving as well, or political advocacy. Often where we can have the greatest impact is locally, and we think about what's going on internationally and around the country, and smartly we do things that are aimed at trying to support those efforts. And certainly no discouragement of that, but also encouragement of doing things at the local level. And one of the good news pieces about doing stuff at the local level is you can actually see, direct impact. You might see an individual that was assisted by something you donated or whatever. I remember when I was working at the VA, I worked in a program for homeless veterans, and I took some old clothing in one day. and I was doing group therapy, and I got totally focused on one person in the group, which you can't really afford to do as a psychotherapist and doing group therapy, but I could not take my eyes off this one person in the group. And then I realized he was wearing one of my old shirts. And anyway, that helped. I was able to kind of get my broader perspective back after seeing that. But my point is, when you do stuff locally, you can actually often see the direct impact of that, and it's helpful to to get some direct reinforcement for what we're doing. Let's see. This and I was going to point this out. These three. So the middle link, the one that says climate resilient cities, that link is I realize that link is no longer active for whatever reason. I don't think it was taken down by ICE, although it might have been. But anyway, I did see a link the other day that I went to that was about how to help and support federal employees, and I stored the link away to look at as I'm working on this other project. And when I went into it last night to look at it, I saw that it actually was taken down by ICE. So there are disturbing things going on. But meanwhile, this link, Best Cities for Climate Change, and this one, Cities That Will Still Be Livable, those are kind of fun. They actually are their ratings of cities that are just that. And I was going to show you the list, but rather than do that, I'll just tell you that the best cities for climate change. This was done in 2023, so it could have changed. But the best cities for climate change at that time were Duluth, Minnesota, Orlando, Florida, and sadly, the third one was Asheville, North Carolina, which of course we know was devastated, by a climate event. But those were thought of at the time as the three top cities, and then that was from this link here, and then this one, the cities that will still be livable, which is kind of it's kind of daunting to even see it referred to that way. But that included, actually, the number one city is Buffalo, New York, followed by Cleveland, Ann Arbor, and then again Duluth, Minnesota shows up. So if you're thinking about relocating for climate change purposes, this might be a good thing to check out. Let's see. I'm going to push it along so we have at least a few minutes for discussion. This piece is about donation. It overlaps with the charitable giving piece, and it's about donation. And the thing I'll say about this is two things I'm going to say about it. One is I'm in no way suggesting any specific investments. That's way out of my lane. And so it's not in any way suggesting that. But in doing this, I did consult with the person who's our financial consultant. And then I reconsulted after Donald Trump got reelected, because I wasn't, I wanted to get his perspective about whether things were going to shift in terms of investments and so forth. And he really suggested probably not, that the horse is out of the barn on green energy and that sort of thing, and that it's actually continues to be worthwhile investment domain. And so this is just some information that's investment related, but again, not in any way intended to say do this or don't do that. The last section of the compilation is organizations to consider for support and affiliation, and on this, this is a guide towards organizations that you might want to consider, and these are the ones that Johanna and I have supported over many years, long before I got involved in this particular project. So these are ones that we have really seen as go-to kinds of organizations that are doing great work. And then this list is, and these are not only for donation purposes, but also organizations that one might be affiliated with for kind of information and support and that kind of thing. And these are all live links. And so this is pretty much any kind of organization you might want to find, including the ones for young people, or here's one for grandparents. So anyway, these are all live links. You could check out any of those. And then the very last section is about how to go about how to have good information. These days, obviously, getting good, reliable information is a key. And as you'll see, I'm really focused on Katharine Hayhoe, and this is her. She sends out a regular newsletter that's very helpful and always includes a piece around what is good and is going on, but also in things that are in need of attention, how to go about acting on those. And then here's a list of additional organizations like that are good sources of information. And the ones with the asterisk are ones that were recommended specifically by Katharine Hayhoe. So that really is the document. And I'm going to take the screen share off. And I didn't leave very much time, but anyway.
Joel, we have about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Hey, Joel, I just want to say I just sent out through our group, Sophie, through our group email, the document again. So it'll be at the top of your email from MCI for anybody who wants to look at the document.
Thank you.
Again, and get all that information.
So I would welcome any thoughts or questions, comments, but particularly people's thoughts about this matter.
Eugenia?
Thank you, Joel, and for all your work. It's critical. And I think most of us here recognize it's critical. And as you said, I have a friend who works for ICE, and she just said last week, they were told to scrub anything about climate change from their servers, messages, anything. So I'm just wondering, given that now we're fighting it more and more, it seems to me, an invisible battle. Resources, information is being taken away. Do you think there might be an alternate source for information for those of us who care?
I think there are and will continue to be. It's going to take a long time to dismantle everything. And I don't think that will get accomplished. And again, I guess I would refer you back to the document there. I think that's chock full of organizations that really are providing very, very good information, and I think those will persist. And again, I think the momentum is good in terms of climate, and we just can't afford to get beat down by any forces that are trying to push this away. But we have to recognize those and be smart about how we continue the positivity.
Any other questions?
Martha has her hand up.
Martha.
Yeah, hi. It's easy to get discouraged, like, just the little things that we do, like putting our little food scraps with the green waste and stuff like that. Sometimes it feels like, come on, is this really doing anything? And I wanted to know if you would answer that question, because things like putting in drought resistant plants and things when there's golf courses using so much more water, like it's hard to feel like doing our little thing is doing anything.
Right. So the question is it doing anything? Yes, absolutely it is. I mean, think if everybody did it, it would, it wouldn't be doing a lot. It already is, but the more people are doing it, and that's the idea of getting, really engaging people and, engaging people who might think differently. But that's a good example of, Catherine Hayhoe talks a lot about, people that we might be very divergent in the way we think about many things, but, we all care about, I mean, I don't have children of my own, but we all care about our kids, our grandchildren, and so that's a way to find common ground and then be able to say, well, if we do a better job of, of saving water, might mean that our kids are going to have and grandkids are going to have water down the road. So I
Well,
think it's really crucial. You can't you can't say it's hopeless or there's nothing we can do, because it is making a difference. And one of
yeah.
the things I didn't say in the presentation is that there's a lot of evidence of what is happening in a positive way. And you can go to the
Well,
material.
that's definitely encouraging. Thomas?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Joel. I'd love to get in touch with you. I was looking for your contact information in the chat, and I didn't see it. I have yet to receive the document that's been posted. We probably have some overlap in people that we've known down through the places you've been in your life, Georgia State and Palo Alto. My main question is, do you understand the concept of hopium, and are you making a distinction there in the good news that you are putting forward?
I was just putting my email in the chat here.
No, I always, after the speaker speaks, I always send out the speaker form and any additional information he has.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
you'll have
Thank
that
you.
contact by email.
Thanks.
Okay, so Thomas, I would love to hear from if you have a connection in Georgia State. I am so fond of Georgia State that I would love to hear from you. I am not actually. I don't know the concept that you just said. I'm not familiar with that. So if you'd like to tell people about it, if it's relevant, I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I would
another
like to
day,
have you
another
post
day.
something on that, Thomas. That would be useful if you could post something to the group on it.
Okay, I'll stick one reference in the chat, and maybe we can talk about it in the future. Thank you
Yeah,
for
that
your
would be very
presentation.
useful because I think that would be very helpful. We're really running out of time. One
My email
question.
works better than chat.
Okay, good.
Just
Thank you,
saying.
Mary Grace. One final question. Ruth Brody Sharon, please.
Well, I wanted to share something that might be helpful. I've been involved in the interfaith community for almost 35 years, and we found that the different religious centers, the churches, the mosques, the temples, etc., have a very strong sense of doing this work because they feel it's an injunction that's a covenant that was made with God. And so these programs very often can go viral easily in a congregation if one member that's here that belongs to a group takes it to whoever's in charge, the pastor, etc., and says, "How about having a day of a teaching, learning about what we can do?" And the environmental movement really took off when the religious community started getting involved in it. So I want to urge people to think.
Yeah, Ruth, we don't have a lot of time. Could you focus the question, please?
No, I just wanted to share this information as he's trying to continue to get exposure for the ideas because it's brilliant. I'm just sharing that. So.
Okay. Joel, do you have any reaction?
That sounds terrific.
Okay.
No argument there.
Okay, so we need then Mary Grace will send out any material that you want to share with the group in email, and everyone will get it, including your contact information and the work you're doing. So I'd like to we need to wrap up the presentation and have everyone please say thank you to Joel Rosenthal for his input today on climate change, and we hope we'll be able to hear more from you on this important work because it's very important to everyone. So with that, I want to turn the meeting back over to Mary Grace
Thank you so much, Joel.
Yes, thank you very much for everything you brought to us today.